that was a journey. So let's talk about it. This video is going to contain a lot of spoilers and my opinions on the main story quest in A Realm Reborn as of version 6.5. If you have any interest in playing the game, I strongly advise you go play through the end of A Realm Reborn. I'll see you in like a month or two. Now then, I heard a lot about Final Fantasy XIV before I decided to pick up the game, but let's not start there yet. In early 2007, in my grandmother's computer room, my brother introduced me to RuneScape. Okay, technically it was RuneScape 2, but everyone still called it RuneScape. So, anyways, fresh-faced and ready to join the world of gaming, I quickly joined my brother in creating a character and exploring the world. Don't mind the fact that I just admitted to breaking Jagex terms of service. I promise this gets back around to Final Fantasy, just give me a minute to set up my dramatic backstory. I created a character and began playing on and off over the course of a month whenever I had the opportunity. Eventually, I died to the wizards of the Varrock Stone Circle and lost all of my gear, which, looking back now, I could have gotten back in less than a day, but to 7-year-old Matthew, this was the last nail in the coffin. So, I went back to Webkins and never thought about it again. Fast forward to 2022, I noticed a video in my recommended feed for a weird game I had fond memories of years ago. Why was a 12-hour video with a man in a snail hat on the thumbnail in my recommended feed? I don't know. But as fate would have it, it would be the fertilizer for a seed that had been slowly growing in my head for years. Who wrote this? Wait, I did. Right, yeah, okay, fair enough. Off the back of a painful season of grinding to my career high in a small indie game you may have heard of called League of Legends, I began to have doubts about if I was actually enjoying the game. I was frustrated with the direction the creators were taking the game, with things like Chemtech Rift, new items, and college work ramping up for senior year, but in fairness, they didn't have much control over that. I began playing less League, but still considered it my favorite game despite my displeasure. In October 2023, I was between jobs and stopped playing League of Legends due to the fact that it was upsetting those around me when I played it, and I recognized I should just stop. I thought back to my youth, where I started all those years ago, the adventures I went on, the stores, the coin grind, and then I realized I really didn't want to look back at what they had done to Webkins in over a decade, so I started thinking about RuneScape instead. Back when I was first playing RuneScape, the world was limitless. Any direction you went, it had a new story, a new adventure to go on and explore. But after watching that video of the man and the snail, I realized I could never go back to that game I once thought had no walls, because it did, and it was far more blocked off than I was willing to accept. So I turned to other alternatives, specifically a content creator I frequently watch, Kripparrian here, constantly talking about Path of Exile, which made me want to see if that game could remind me of the endless feeling of MMOs, but you don't know. Path of Exile is not an MMO. All the areas outside of towns are instants, there's no spontaneous character interaction, there's no randomly partying up and going on quests. I mean, it's not a bad game, but it's a very isolating game. It was me against every enemy the world had to throw, and it just wasn't RuneScape. I remember Varrock, peak hours, filled with traders. This was pre-Grand Exchange, mind you. I remember people grinding strength on White Knights in Falador. I remember the random drop party outside Lumbridge, where I earned my first cape, which I lost during an Evil Chicken random event. Oh yeah, if you only started playing RuneScape recently and getting yelled at to do emotes is the worst thing you can imagine happening in a random event, there were like 5 random events that just killed you. It was great. Where was I? Oh yeah, Path of Exile wasn't even an MMO. And in November of 2023, I talked to a friend on one of my Discord servers and heard about a small indie title named After spending about an hour designing my character, Am I forgetting something? After spending an hour designing my character, and another hour trying to let it accept the name that I wanted, I eventually settled on a different name, and if you can figure out why I wasn't allowed to use the name that I wanted, just leave a comment talking about the weather, okay? I didn't realize it. It's lovely this time of year. I'm under a blanket in the early summer. It is hot. Some context for my thoughts going into this. I was going to play through the free trial through Stormblood. I hadn't decided if I was going to upgrade afterwards, but with no access to the market board, I thought I was going to be crafting my own gear and forging my own path. After starting as an archer, I promptly ignored the main scenario quest, referred to as MSQ from here on out, and grinded all the way to level 15, at which point I decided to start investing in the future of the character by seizing the means of production. By which I mean I started botany, and progressed all the way to the level 20 quest, which required me to gather resources from an area I didn't know how to get to. So, like a normal person, I started back on the MSQ. No, just kidding. Instead, I got into leatherworking instead of solving the issue, until I reached the level 20 quest, which required resources from another area I didn't know how to get to. You're seeing a pattern? Yeah. So at this point, I actually started the MSQ. Oh yeah, for those of you still here, this is where I'm actually going to start talking about the story, okay? Final warning. Ready? Let's go. Going through the Gridanian MSQ, the game introduces the basic game mechanics, like combat, showing enemies associated with quests have certain markers, how to navigate the map, how to interact with guild levies, and the inn. Then, you're sent on a bunch of fetch quests. Early on, however, we're introduced to our first bit of intrigue, a sword embedded in a stump in the middle of the forest. This causes us to have our first encounter with protagonist vision. This introduces us to the comic relief of the rest of the game.
Well, of course it is. Moon and I are like twin sisters.
Save in appearance and aptitude.
Oh, spoilers. They're investigating something about how aether flows or something. Anyways, now we can go into fetch quests for the next, 5 hours, but that's about it until you get to an airship. And this is where the game really opens up. Forget all the slow grinding on trash, forget having to play mostly solo, this is where the pace picks up. You get access to the airship, you get access to dungeons, you get inducted into a secret society, you get to know that subscribers can use retainers, but then you get to an absolutely terrifying quest. Lord of the Inferno. Just look at it. Alright, if you're wondering why I'm using the wiki instead of the actual quest pop-up, I didn't actually think about making this video until right here.
Save in appearance and aptitude.
Wait, where? Right, Lord of the Inferno. Anyways, then I did my crafting and gathering quests. A lot. Anyways, so from now on, I'm just not gonna mention these crafting sprees because it was a considerable portion of my time. Probably a third of my total playtime, if I were to guess. Anyways, Lord of the Inferno, it's a good mission. The twist was only mildly expected, honestly, and the trial was really fun. The first time. See, the thing about the Bowl of Embers is that it's not hard, and it's not supposed to be. The game doesn't have any difficult dungeons or trials until about level 40 in the MSQ. That being said, the Bowl of Embers is excellent at teaching each party member their job on the team. During the first phase of the boss teaches the tank to stand away from their allies to stop the cleave attacks. Next phase reminds the healer and DPS that, hey, your positioning matters, keep moving, don't get lazy. When the Infernal Nail drops, it instantly amps up the pressure without any indication, and everyone is a DPS. Yes, that means you, Sylphie, hit the nail. After destroying the nail, the game reminds the healer that using Cure 1 on all of your teammates is a horrendous idea. A healer's job, as stupid as it sounds, isn't to heal. It's to heal efficiently and only as much as you need to, because you are a DPS the rest of the time. Everyone's hurt, use your AoE heal, and then Ifrit just lets you kill him. It's like last phase, AoE attacks, overlapping, everything goes in. Chaos, carnage, chef's kiss. 10 out of 10. Mostly positive reviews. But, as you can recall, I did not say it is a really fun trial. I said the first time. The first time. After that, you know your systems. You know that when you roll this in your roulette, it's just a 30-second DPS rush. And unfortunately, this doesn't change with the harder versions. My teammates cleared it first time without any deaths. What's that? No video evidence of my completion? Remember?
Save in appearance and aptitude.
Also, I think this is the part where Taliesin Jaffe goes missing. So in writing this script, it took me about an hour to put all of that to the page. So we're just going to keep this train moving. So this is where we get to our big decision. Where do your loyalties lie? Do you stick with your roots? Has the leader from one of the other city-states swayed you to their side? Do you look sick and yellow? Do you kind of think everyone else is just a massive imperialist? Is this bit going on way too long? Maybe? I stuck with Gridania. Look, this is my review. I get to talk about it. It's my taste. In my opinion, I think Gridania has the most reasonable leadership. In the level 20 quest, A Hero in the Making, you're required to attend all 3 of the remembrance ceremonies. Also, this is your first introduction to Alphino, from here on referred to as the Twink, for obvious reasons. I hated him throughout all of A Realm Reborn. Kan-e Senna spoke like a reasonable person throughout her speech in the amphitheater. Yes, it was, by design, to be a political speech. However, he actually addressed it like you would a memorial speech. He talked about lives lost, tragedy, the lost vision of her people, and the necessity to move forward. And then Alize starts talking in the middle of a moment of, you know what? She isn't relevant to this review. She doesn't show up. Next, we went to Ul'dah to hear a speech in a random hallway. Sure, not starting off strong. Then, Raban salutes the Sultan, but then he, a random mercenary, is giving the speech instead of their primary political leader. And then his speech is not a memorial speech. It's a rally, which isn't a memorial service. Then they mention lives lost once and go on an imperial tirade, which is ironic given the, well, we'll get there. He then straight up insults himself, the political structure, and the Sultanate, then basically asks everyone to buy war bonds. Only then does the Sultan have to be picked up by Raban and address the crowd, and says the most hypocritical thing I think I've ever heard, and everyone cheers. At least there wasn't a moment of silence to be interrupted by the peanut gallery, but still, no thank you. Next stop, Limsalominsa, which is absolutely my favorite word. Limsalominsa. Anyways, I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. It was handled professionally, which is to say there was a moment of silence to be interrupted with an, you know what? No. We're not getting into it. It was very similar to the Gridanian speech, only with a militaristic twang. The Admiral also specifically called out that they should stand with adventurers, which is reasonable, given that adventurers are the ones called on to save them. And, listen, with the character built, I looked at... Didn't look good in red. I joined the Twin Adders, and never used the die they gave me, okay? Don't worry about it. So, where was I? Right. To end the first leg of our journey, self-management. This is the quest that kicks the game into high gear, because it unlocks jobs. Jobs are a more advanced version of your basic classes, and if you don't know that, you ignored my multiple spoiler warnings and you've already begun to ruin the game for yourself. Why would you do something like that? How dare you? This next part of the game is doing fetch quests and random shit until all the sylphs trust you. It consists of running around doing fetch quests and other random things like breaking up a bar fight, giving a soldier an egg, giving someone some wine, talking to a trader, no joke, 5 times before he decides to fight you, and then going into a dungeon to rescue the Sylph Elder. To describe this part of MSQ as tiring, it's an understatement. But now our story with the Sylphs comes to an end and we face our next primal threat. We return to the Hall of Flames and are warned of La Habrea, the Ascian that's been helping cause general unrest in the Beast Tribes. Basically, we go on more fetch quests, doing things like serve tea to the locals to earn a chance to talk to someone, but the locals still hate us. So we go through a bunch of hoops before just going back to Minfilia, and she's like, oh yeah, I have a friend who's from there. Why? Should I have mentioned this earlier? He's actually useless and sends us all the way to Gridania to talk to someone else who might know someone who can get us in with all the people. Like I said, tiring. As it turns out, that person's brother is dying by the will of the elementals or something, and everyone's refusing to heal him? I'm not really sure, I don't know. I was doing these fetch quests during the Pathfinder campaign. No, it wasn't yours, you know who I'm talking to. Anyways, it would be a shame if there was a white mage at this point that could, instantly heal him. Oh, hi, white mage. Fetch quest time. I'm gonna speed this up a bit. I think this is the part where a lot of people were getting tired of the story and tended to give up. But if you're ahead of the leveling curve, like I was during A Realm Reborn. I've tried to not later, but anyways, you can knock this out in like 4 hours, which when I say out loud makes it sound a lot worse. But it's a decent enough storyline if you can actually invest yourself, but I can't really do it I can't do it justice in a review like this, okay? So let's just speed through it. Kids at Alamigo are going to sneak off to summon a primal or something. Uh-oh, an Ascian taught them how. Talk to Minfilia. Someone is traumatized by a bunch of murders. Uh-oh, an Ascian was spotted by a bunch of deaths. Better go blow up a rock. Nope, disappointing amount of rock. While we were out blowing up a rock, they found another body. Huh, that's weird, there's a white lily pin. I sure hope no class uses that as their main gimmick in the next expansion. Go talk to Gridanian tutorial mom that doesn't know what the white lily is. Go talk to one of the god quivers who doesn't know what the white lily is. Go talk to a lancer who doesn't know what the white lily is. Go talk to a random old guy super far away from any of the crystals in the area that you can't use your mountain. Of course he knows. He belongs to a family of rich people. Run a dungeon in the Crumbling Manor. Go talk to him again. Go talk to Minfilia. Okay, Titan time. The kobolds have summoned a primal, and oh god, it's this quest. So, allow me to introduce the worst character in the entire Final Fantasy franchise. Okay, you know what? Stop the music. Cut to me. Zoom in. This... So I did not begin to explain this correctly in any of my scripts, okay? But this one quest line, not even a quest line, it's like 3 quests, literally delayed the script by like 2 months because I kept going into Praetorium, going into Q, going into whatever, and thinking, I could be working on the script right now, but then I'd have to deal with this idiot. And it was so obnoxious to think about, and it kills any sense of pacing, that I just procrastinated on it for so long. Okay, now we can bring the music back in, we can zoom out, and we can cut back to the video. He's only in like 3 quests, but I fucking hate him. Okay, let's roll through these. Go to the real company of Heroes Captain. Go prove I'm not a coward. Fetch quests. Fetch quests. Fetch quests. Fetch quests. Dungeon. Fetch quests. Party. Okay, next story beat. Lord of Crags. Wait. That's it? Hulk forgot to break out the face paint this morning. What was I saying? Oh, right, Titan fight. Yeah, this is really a boring fight. Just AoE, hit the core, then hit him. I didn't even know there was a raid-wide mechanic until I looked it up in the wiki for this script. This is the most basic fight ever. It's just honestly kind of fun. I genuinely don't know what it is, and it may actually just be that I like not having to think so I can look at the pretty character animations because, hey, it's so short there isn't any downtime in the fight, which always kills the pacing of fights. Hey, we're not there yet, Stone Vigil, we'll get to you. Yeah, so I'm using that title card a bit earlier than I expected, but this is the first big difficulty spike in the game. The Imperials then come and wipe out everyone in Alderaan and, the Waking Sands, except for the main character. Anyways, they're needed for future trauma. Now we go meet a character that'll be super important to the story going forward, look for his airship, go to a tower, fetch quests, fetch quests, fetch quests, don't worry, plot is happening soon. Oh yeah, we're at the Inquisition part. We find some draconian rosaries, I think? I don't know, it's never said, it's only read. It turns out those are prayer beads that I had to look up outside a game. Anyways, talk, kill a thing, talk, get ice cores for Sid, be annoyed by the twink telling the player exactly what they were already thinking, look for a body, gas, be actual Inquisitor. Okay, now we're getting into Stone Vigil. Stone Vigil is a name that everyone recognizes, because it's the first dungeon that you can't always wall to wall. I was warned about this dungeon when I started the game, and that if I was tanking, I should take packs one at a time after the second boss. I was leveling up my paladin at the time, and yeah, I caused a wipe. That said, the last boss is really fun. There's a lot of downtime where you can just sit in the middle and dance while waiting to play the video game. It's great. Yeah, this script is at the bottom of page 6, and I know when I'm recording this, it's going to be like a 3-minute video. And yes, this is born from trauma of make a 5-minute presentation and you write like a whole... You write what you think it's a novel, but then it's like, oh, nope, that was 2 minutes. I'll leave that to my underpaid therapist because we have another primal to deal with. We make a pot, we do some crystal healing, and would you believe it? Wrong crystals. 8 fetch quests later, we have the correct crystals, and bam, we are through the magical barrier, and I forgot to mention earlier in the script, so I'm just going to say it here. The Howling Eye comes up in roulettes quite often. I still don't know the mechanics. I just know to hide behind the pillars until they get destroyed, then kill the feathers, and I'm genuinely interested to actually learn what the mechanics are.
What the? Oh, the festival is so loud, I can't even hear my own evil jingle.
So let's see. Don't hide behind the pillars, because they get hit if you're near them. Okay. Then hide when she does the raid wide, then DPS the feathers. Okay, so I had a pretty good handle on it just from playing it. Oh, and phase 2 is just tank and spank with ads. Overall, it's an interesting fight. It reminds me a lot of Titan, but you get to use your full level, almost full level 50 kit, so it's fine, I guess. Let's keep moving. Final stretch of, the intro.
One debt to society later.
So the servers still aren't up, so I guess I'm just gonna keep writing. Go back to the Waking Sands, get an ominous vision from Light Mom, meet up with Ida and Gistrola. Real quick spoiler for Heaven's Word, I'll put this on screen. When it disappears, I'm done with spoilers. You later meet Yistrola's sister, and it is super, super jarring to hear her refer to Yistrola as just Stola. Like, oh my god, like, it makes sense, but it's so weird. Anyways, while we're here, we're also learning about the prisoners... Oh, I'm forgetting this. Here we go. Welcome back. So we also learn where the prisoners are being stored. Remember the tower? We're back. Hey, editing Matthew here. I know we're about to start on kind of like a fast-paced list off all the things bit, but I really don't like the joke that I made here, so I'm just going to cut it and we're going to move on. For the most part, we were just looking for Imperials. Alright, let's get moving.
Alphino, though I concede it may not always be apparent, I was ever your grandsire's finest pupil.
Whoa, okay, that's a bit too far. That was close. We wouldn't want to risk spoiling anything that could be traumatic, right? So, we rescue Biggs, we eavesdrop on some Imperials through a sewage pipe. Why? Okay. We set up a few radio jammers, we learn the Imperial salute, we murder people and take their clothes, we salute an Imperial and they don't notice that we're a green-haired dragon girl, we steal a mech, we take it for repairs. Okay, mission time. We sneak in and start interacting with all the soldiers stationed before asking super obvious and kind of pointed questions. Like, and nobody finds this suspicious? Okay. This part must have been really boring, because I'm sure there was a reason, but I genuinely can't remember the reason they give us for getting away with being idiots. Anyways, rescue success! Oh no, Taliesin is possessed now, and Gaius lays down an ultimatum for the Eorzean alliance. The Twink, in his infinite wisdom, comes up with a plan that could fail at literally any step, and everything would fall apart. Oh yeah, I forgot about this solo fight. He kicked my ass like twice before I killed him. Honestly, it was pretty fun. And I think my gear was super under-leveled, so... quick other tangent. I forgot you could buy equipment. I think I'm using level 45 gear in a level 50 fight. I had been leveling weaving, leatherworking, carpentry. It was super slow, so I was just going to fight my way through and get to the Poetics vendor. But it wasn't until I got to Ishgard and I found an alley of stores that I remembered you can just buy level-appropriate gear. I've been at max skill for like a month and a half before I found the store. That's on me, though. They tell you that in the tutorial, I just forgot. Anyways, I went and talked a bunch of depressed people into going to war, and we begin our first long dungeon. See, most dungeons in the game can be run in like 10 minutes. These are known as the MSQ dungeons. They show up in roulettes and are so long because they have unskippable cutscenes. And honestly, the first of these two dungeons is pretty forgettable, I'll say. I like the aesthetic of Livia's armor a lot, and I really wanted it for White Mage. Say hi, White Mage. Oh yeah, I got this armor from Alliance raids, I think, but we're not there yet. We kill a possessive girlfriend and get some nice earrings. Okay, here we go. Final quest, the Ultima Weapon. Let's begin the discussion of Praetorium. So many unskippable cutscenes. This dungeon takes forever. It's not awful, it's just so slow. It is mostly an interactive cutscenes, but there are a few good highlights, like definitely losing mech friend, Nero joining in our Skype call, your masters lack the strength to do otherwise. I love this part of the story. It really picks up the pace and it starts rolling. And, oh yeah, I mentioned this earlier, I didn't think about it. Fun fact, these cutscenes cannot be skipped, I mentioned that earlier, but what makes it special, the only other cutscenes that I have run into that can't be skipped are when you're unlocking dance emotes and showing off for the fashion show. So Gaius, you are as important as the harvest dance. I think this would be a good time to talk about the world. So an event keeps getting referred to, Cartano. And if I understand correctly, this is when Bahamut was summoned and everything went to hell. But apparently the Alliance summoned the 12 there as well. It might have been in a cutscene, but at the time of writing, that was like 3 or 4 months ago now. We're into February. I finished A Realm Reborn on New Year's Eve, and I started the game and got my primer in November, and I'm post Heavensward now, as of writing this. So it's been a while. For those keeping track at home, recording Matthew, it is even further along. We are at we're like tail end of April that I'm actually getting around to recording this, so we'll see. We might, who knows, this might get released on New Year's Eve. With the way things have been going, I would not be surprised. I only bring this up because I only write this script during Praetorium runs, during the cutscenes, and I just thought I hadn't mentioned it. Like, I mentioned Cardinal. Also, the 12 are mentioned all the time, but the only lore we ever get about them is like the initial cutscene. Where were we? Oh, the cutscene's finally finished up. Wow, what a great dungeon. Time for the Ultima Weapon. Sorry, the Porta de Cumana? I don't think I've ever said that name out loud before in my life. It's always just called the Ultima Weapon. Anyways, this is a spectacle fight. All the attacks are telegraphed until, without question, my favorite scene. Okay, it's a tie between this and the Praetorium monologue. I sure hope this wasn't Gaius's intention.
Such devastation! This was not my intention!
Okay, that's good. So I'm about to go back and watch cutscenes, because the wiki is aggressively unhelpful. So let's see, where were we? Oh, it's Taliesin. Well, his body. So the La Habrea fight is an interesting one. First off, this fight has actual mechanics. Second off, I despise scripted deaths. Just let me fight. Just let me fight. I know this is supposed to be a stage thing where like you are taking away agency. You don't have any agency as a character, but that's not why I play a game. Come on now. Anyways, the ending of the fight scene, cutscene, is so cool. Right up until about one very specific moment where I made a joke to myself that I now have to edit.
I think it's a pretty good plan. We should be able to pull it off this time. What do you think, Abdul? Can you give me a number crunch real quick?
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm coming up with 32.33, repeating, of course, percentage of survival.
Oh, that's a lot better than we usually do.
Alright, chums up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
Oh yeah, I also just remembered about New Game Plus. It lets me go back and re-record story stuff, but, no. But before we move on, I thought I'd throw some other bits in here that came to me while I was editing the original, so I'm adding these all in here.
It'll be fine. Your girl has advantage on saves against poison. Me 5 seconds later having rolled a 9 and a 13 against what was apparently wyvern poison. Your girl is a fucking dumbass.
Was that the bite of 87?
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people. Whoa, gosh, we could, you know, like, group up
And hit it till it dies!
Woo, nice!
Yeah.
High five!
That's a good start, but let's hear some other suggestions.
Fuck it, group up.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
They are too many!
Look familiar? Scenes like these are happening all over the galaxy right now. You could be next. That is, unless you make the most important decision of your life. Prove to yourself that you have the strength and the courage to be free.
Anyways, oh no, everything is bad. Oh no, oh no. Hi, mech friend. This is where we're supposed to be running away in a tense moment, and I can only imagine that mech friend looks like a Star Wars chicken walker. I can't take it seriously. I'll just briefly touch on the end credits scene. I appreciate them covering that now La Habrea is gone, but he will be back. Also, real quick, Roban is like, hey, we're all united now, our armies are for the good of the realm now, like 3 different times, and hindsight, we'll get to it. Also, they said the line, also, Nanamo isn't even here, she's a joke of a leader, we're moving on. So, post-credits. Protagonist vision. This is a cryptic purple version of the Space Crystal TM. Then a primal awakens with a terrible roar, and there's no time for that. The Ascians need to be vague and edgy. And thus ends A Realm Reborn and this video. Roll credits. Wait, this isn't where the video starts. So after the end of A Realm Reborn proper, we get a bunch of great things, like the poetic system, we get alliance raids, we get, we get mounted flight in all 3 of the city-states, and we get even more MSQ for me to cover. Okay, I'm just going to touch on the highlights and share some of my thoughts about them. So, Minfilia is annoyed by politics, mood, so we go find Minfilia's not mom, ? Bring her back. Anyways, we get the paperwork lined up, and we're finally getting to know what primal has been awakened during the post-credit scene. The good King Mughal the 12th. This fight is a fucking joke. No, like literally. We summon some ads, there's no interesting mechanics to discuss. I think it's literally just an introduction to having multiple tanks in a raid, which, like, fair, that's an important thing to establish. Anyways, We move on to the next thing. We head back to the Waking Sands, learn, surprise, no one is paying attention. It was an Ascian who taught the Mughals how to summon a primal. Oh, and, Minfilia acts even stupider than usual somehow in an encounter. Why did I write that? In an encounter with the white-robed Ascian. After chasing him out, he's like, La Habrea was a nerd, peace. Anyways, he never shows up again. Like, nothing. I am so far down the road, he has been mentioned once. Anyways, this is the size 11 boot print in Minfilia's back to get her moving to Revenant's Toll. Now then, the Sahagin, definitely not Sahuagin, definitely Sahagin, definitely not the same thing, copyright neutral, have been stealing crystals to summon their primal. At this time, we also meet Best Girl. Also, I cannot express how upset I am for not realizing that she was an Aura until the movie. So, we do some politics. Some politicians finally listen to us. We play hide and... What? Where are we play... You know what? I don't care. It's March. I'm halfway through Stormblood. I'm just gonna keep the ball rolling. It's April. I'm halfway through Shadowbringers. I'm gonna keep the ball rolling. Sahagin, Leviathan, we're here. Not yet, though. Soon. Taliesin is a rogue now. Sahagin can reincarnate? The rules don't make sense. They summon Leviathan. Back to the control room. Off to fight Leviathan. The Leviathan fight is fun if anyone would actually activate the elemental converter. Leviathan dead. Next. Have we mentioned the riots in Ul'dah? There are riots in Ul'dah. Fetch quest to find refugees. Fucking Teleji. Teleji is the problem that everyone refuses to address. Like, we know he's evil. We know he is blatantly evil. But it's always like, oh, we'll get to him later. Okay, new primal time. Ramal was, who was he again? I think it was the Sylphs. The Sylphs summoned a primal. Which I kind of thought we managed the Sylphs. Sylphs. All these words are hard to say. Oh yeah, the next of Alphinaud's montage of bad decisions, he establishes a mercenary group. And doesn't pay them. Okay. We head over to Camp Dragonhead, because someone's gift never arrived in the mail. Heretics, Crusade, properly establish the mercenary group, give them matching clothes, no money. Time skip. We meet a voiced side character who seems like he's unimportant to the story. But he's a voiced character. Suspicious. Anyways, he instantly points our attention elsewhere. Suspicious. Fetch quests. We meet, spoilers, the only good Ishgardian.
Hello, Zuko here.
More heretics attack. Heretics disguised as normal people lead us directly to their base.
Whoopsie.
We head back, and the heretics attacked people in a Robert E. Lee-esque move. One of them just has a guard schedule on him. Oops. Stormcloak time. Okay, this is a fun one. Fenrir has really cool mechanics. Ilberd makes a report about the person he's deflecting our attention to. We present to the Lotus stand. We talk to Ilbert, and it's time to hunt Ivy. Ilbert fucks up and loses the trail. Best Girl picks it up again. We apprehend her. Minfilia is somehow weirded out by that, apparently. I don't know. Plot twist, she was a Garlean spy. Double plot twist, she was a Monetist spy. Triple plot twist, she's also a heretic spy. Anyways, now we go and meet Moonbreeda. By the way, this is the moment I decided that I should start making a review because, you know.
Save in appearance and aptitude.
Oh, we're on to Shiva already. Okay, so hard Shiva is fun. Extreme Shiva was such a tough clear, and I wish I was recording it. Oh yeah, so this is the first time anyone has ever heard about making yourself into a primal, which causes everyone to be reasonably confused. And I think it's a really interesting concept to introduce, and spoilers, they use it again. And it is so good. It's so good. Well, My tank just DC'd during Praetorium, so let's talk about how Alphino makes his next in the montage of bad decision by accusing Sir Emmerich, the only reasonable Ishgardian, of making up the whole thing to further his own goals. Listen, ARR Alphino literally has zero redeeming qualities, and not a single form of common sense. Like, there are plenty of cells in his body, none of them are brain cells. Moving right along, an Ishgardian astrologist thinks that Midgardstormer is a Scorpio or something, and none of that means anything because the person that Ilberd was deflecting to somehow escaped Ilberd's watchful eye. I'm sure it was just a coincidence. Anyways, fight time, but actually the person Ilberd's been deflecting to is immune, and it's just about keeping Ilberd alive. I may have let him die by accident once. It was totally an accident. Don't worry about it. Anyways, now we have a way to kill Ascians. So this is where the story shifts. The story of A Realm Reborn is done. They've wrapped up all the loose ends. There is no story left to tell. There definitely isn't massive plot holes that haven't been addressed. Just don't worry about it. We're setting up for Heavensward. Ilberd has a contact who's been tracking the illegal trading going on in Ul'dah. Ilberd just goes ahead and murders the criminals, then the client conveniently gets away with a large portion of the weapons. We find out that there are barely any weapons, and Ilberd, quotes, would like nothing more than to have this incident forgotten. Well, I guess we just shouldn't think about the large numbers of missing weapons being brought into Ul'dah, which, remind you, is still under riots. Let's just brush it under the rug. I'm sure Ilberd would love for us to not be concerned with any of this. I swear so much of this story can only happen because of people's inaction. But you know what? There's no time for that, because Ishgard wants us to do their dirty work for them to trust us. Time for the Keeper of the Lake, which is a really good dungeon. Which is good, because it comes up a lot. I really like the dungeon. It's super fun to run. It's super well paced. The designs and structure and environment and all, it's super interesting. The machine gun bird, most of all, there's a friend of mine who didn't realize they forgot to equip their monk soulstone. I'm so sorry I didn't get it on recording, but it's really well paced. I really like Midgardstormer as a character, and we get him as a minion. Oh yeah, and Midgardstormer just murdered Hydaelyn. Like, what an asshole. I hate him. Anyways, Moonbrita has a solution on how to murder Ascians that, quote, would be nigh impossible, so you know it's going to work in like 5 quests. The Garleans are moving out of their place, fight off some guards, and Ascian is like, oh shit, you lost the Chaos Emeralds, and now we can steal Louisoix's cane. He opens a dimensional rift just because. Then it's fight time. It introduces the stacking vulnerability from orbs that the Alliance... Oh crap, that's right, the Alliance raids. Weird magical barrier, go on a fetch quest, no one cares, let's talk about the actual raids. Labyrinth of the Ancients, pull the dragon away from the middle. Go with your alliance to the correct path. Thanatos is actually an interesting concept. In reality, Alliance aid just kills him in a single cycle. There are no stairs, just break your ankles. And oh yeah, if you die to Ancient Flare, I will laugh at you. No, seriously, I have laugh on my hotbar. None of the equipment is interesting to me. Actually, I think I used the Royal Gloves for my White Mage before I got the Dawnstar Gloves. Circus Tower, which I always thought was Cycrus. And, you know, it makes a lot of sense now. I only just realized when I had to type it out now that it was Circus. So, they have Amon and Zandi? I don't know, name is never said out loud, but no one does Alliance raids for the story, or really for the fights, they just do it for the loot. So, from the Circus, we get Amon's stuff, Silica's stuff, and the Guardian stuff. I used Silica's dress when I was playing Summoner, but other than that, most of this stuff kind of sucks. World of Darkness. World of Darkness is my favorite one of the Crystal Tower raids. The Eye is so interesting. The Dragon was probably way more interesting at release. Adds, belly, chains, and both of our healers just went in. Well, great. Finally, Cloud of Darkness. It's just a DPS check, basically. So, gear time. Demon stuff, best in slot. Demon hat, Bard. Demon robes, White Mage, until I got Dawnstar robes. Demon boots, Samurai. My secondary Samurai outfit from gloves down, Demon. Demon sandals, White Mage. It's such a good set. It goes with literally everything. The only one that really doesn't work is the Demon hat of casting and healing. They just look weird. I don't know, that just might be on Auroth specifically, but okay, where was I? So after World of Darkness, we get the rest of the story for Crystal Tower, where, oh, this cat boy, he has Allegan blood, and it's a royal bloodline, and he seals himself inside the Crystal Tower. So that's the only story thread that doesn't actually get wrapped up. Now then, where was I? Right, Ascian fight. So he pulls a Majora's Moon, we DPS him, job done, back to Eorzea. But he's not done with us, just kidding, get in the jar. Being that we no longer have the strength to make it work, Moonbreeder sacrifices herself to make the Blade of Light ideal work. Dig in your heels and refuse her wrong, even if it kills you. You have my respect. But there's no time for that. Ishgard is actively being attacked by Dravanians and heretics, and now it's time for us to sit down and discuss things, now that our enemy has already broken the first line of defense. Oh yeah, the Dragon Roar. I forgot that happens in this expansion. Then we meet the Azor Dragoon Estinian, who isn't racist towards other humanoids for once. What do you mean you don't have the context? Sir Emmerich blackmails the Twink into helping Ishgard once again. We go and spend the next few minutes rallying as many troops as we can, which isn't many. Maybe we should try paying them. And then we march towards the gates of hell. Wait, no. Actually, the military leaders of Eorzea have decided to discuss our request for aid in all of this, and now we have to go play courtroom politics. For once, someone is actually questioning helping the Ishgardians, a first and a last. They ultimately decide, no, we're not going to help, and then tell us to fuck off, but there's no time to dwell on that. The Dravanians are attacking. Fetch Quest of Murder, Bridge of Doom. I finally have a relevant background footage, let's go! It's a spectacle fight, which is really cool and ends with Lucia being the coolest character in the game. Wow, that's a really cool animation. I wonder if they'll reuse it. Anyways, there's now going to be a big elbow-rubbing event with all the political leaders that take credit for our defense of Ishgard after telling us to fuck off and refusing to help. So, let's prepare for that, right? Nope, actually let's spend 3 quests watching the Secretary fail to become a summoner, 2 quests protecting the most entitled NPC in the entire game. We have someone literally mention that Teleji Adeleji was bribing the soldiers, but you know, let's just ignore that and walk directly into his sphere of political influence with his bribed soldiers. We arrive in Ul'dah and the bartender is looking for us. He sends us out into the middle of nowhere. Oh hey, let's pick up this vial of poison when we're about to go meet all of the major political leaders. This isn't fishy. Oh, we've been summoned by the Sultana. Let's take this vial of poison with us to meet the Sultana. That's not fishy. And so the movie begins. Here's the cliff notes. Oh no, the Sultana was poisoned and Ilberd happened to walk in just as it happens, and we happen to have a vial of the exact poison that was used to kill her. The Ginger Crystal Brave, who is somehow becoming a repeating character? Like, he's just a Lalafell with orange hair, that's it. He has no speaking parts. Why do they keep bringing him back? What was I saying? Oh, right, the Ginger Crystal Brave captures the Twink. Teleji Adeleji, the guy we know is evil, comes in and kicks Sir Emmerich out so he doesn't see what's about to happen. They then go and arrest Thancred. I'm just gonna let this clip play out.
You invite me to your party and now you want me to leave? I do so detest receiving mixed signals.
Wait.
Come then. I believe I've lost my appetite.
Taliesin Jaffe? Then everyone decides to go 0 IQ for about 5 minutes so that the plot can happen. Then Roban behaves like his character actually should, and murders Teleji Adeleji, and then tries to murder Lolarito. Oh yeah, he's the other super evil rich guy that I haven't been mentioning because he's kind of like a secondary evil rich guy. And there are kind of a lot of evil rich guys that I'm trying to keep track of, but those are the 2 important ones, right? Roban tries to murder him because he's very obviously egging him on. It goes poorly and Ilbert does what should 100% be a lethal move, but we kind of gotta play around with the rules a little bit to make it match the plot. So he only loses an arm, that's it. Then the very obviously paid off members of the other 2 armies get their commanders to leave so that no one can challenge the Crystal Braves, or more accurately, the Monetists. Damn, if you pay your soldiers, they actually fight for you? No, that sounds ridiculous. There must be other things going on. It's probably Ascians. It's always Ascians. We meet up with Taliesin and start talking like 10 feet from where we're supposed to be running away from and get caught. So we split the party. We run down into the sewers, but we're being chased, so we split the party. Minfilia realizes she forgot to take her meds and starts hearing voices, so we split the party. I get out by myself and walk to the road. Oh, the Twink made it out, as well as Pippin? The right hand of Raban, who's never been mentioned for the entirety of the story. Anyways, the merchant from the very first cutscene of the game rolls by and is just like, oh hey, remember Alize? And I'm like, oh, the one who talked during the moment of silence, that one? And then he's like, yeah, that one. Anyways, we hop on and we ride away, while Pippin shouts a bunch of exposition at us. Oh yeah, and the Twink finally starts watching his own montage, and realizes, hey, you know, maybe I was stupid once. We finally meet with Cid and fly off into the sunset. And by sunset, I mean Ishgard territory. And we meet up with Tazuru and Yugiri. This cutscene is a little hard for me to watch, because it took me this long to realize that Yugiri was an Aura. And then finally, we leave into the frozen north with no warm clothes. Oh yeah, the final playtime after the credits was 250 hours, and later that day I started on the first revision of the script. Currently, at the time of reaching this point in the script, I'm at 600 hours, and to celebrate reaching the movie, I bought the full game. And that's the end of the script, but that's not the end of the video yet. I'm pretty much there, but I just wanted final thoughts. I think a lot of A Realm Reborn gets a bad reputation because of the game's initial release, and this was their first major attempt to fix it, but it just doesn't hold up compared to a lot of the other stories they tell later. I will note that I think there are a lot of parts that could be shored up, but for the most part, it's definitely a passable story. That all being said, A Realm Reborn establishes a lot of the underlying fundamental mechanics of the world and how it's built moving forward. In addition to the Ultima Weapon trial, it shows off a lot of the mechanics that bosses have for the rest of the game, except Alexander, because Alexander. I will also say that it sets up a lot of plot points that need to be filled later, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'd like to say some other things that I have an issue with, but I'm under an agreement right now that I can't talk about. So I will cut myself off here. All in all, 6 out of 10 needs more cowbell. No, 6 out of 10 blood for the blood lilies. That joke isn't even from this expansion. So moving away from that to a little bit of admin work that I know is going to come up if I don't mention it. I had a lot of audio issues that cropped up throughout the video. I think I handled most of them. I also think I hinted at it earlier, but this is not the first draft of this video. It has gone through 6 full script rewrites, keeping different elements from each and cutting some. So I apologize if it doesn't flow perfectly, but I have to move on to a different project or I will just go insane. So I will see you either at Lotto Dungeon Races or maybe even in Endwalker.